One thing that you need when you are creating virtual clusters is reusing the shared platform stack. That means you might have Cert-Manager installed on the host cluster and you want to issue certificates using the same Cert-Manager for the applications running inside your virtual clusters. With vCluster 022, there is a new integration of Cert-Manager that makes it super simple. So in this video, we'll go through the end-to-end example of how to use the Cert-Manager integration from vCluster 022. Without wasting time, let's get started. So right now, I have a Kubernetes cluster, kubectl get nodes, and you can see that there's a 3-node Kubernetes cluster, which is up and running. Now, the next thing, I need to install Cert-Manager. So this is my host cluster, and on my host cluster, I am installing Certificate Manager. Very simple. I'll put the commands in the GitHub repository and put the link to the GitHub repository in the description of the video so that you can try out each and everything. All the files that will be shared in this particular video will also be there in that particular GitHub repository. So Cert-Manager is getting installed on the host cluster. So Cert-Manager is installed. The next step that we need to do is install NGINX Ingress controller on the host cluster. So now this particular command is installing Kubernetes Ingress NGINX controller on the host cluster. So the Ingress controller is also installed. The next thing that you need is vCluster CLI. I already have vCluster CLI installed. If you don't, I'll put the command again in the README of this particular example. Now let's create the virtual cluster. So this is the vCluster YAML. Here we want to enable the ingresses so that the ingresses from the virtual cluster to the host cluster can be synced, and we are enabling the integration. So here we are saying integrations Cert-Manager enabled true. So this will take care of a couple of things. So it will make sure that the imported cluster scoped cluster issues from the host cluster are synced to the virtual cluster. And if you create any issues and certificate in the virtual clusters, they are exported back to the host cluster. vCluster create the demo -f vCluster.yaml. And before even doing this, you need to make sure that you are logged into the platform because this is a pro only feature. So you need to either do a vCluster platform start or vCluster platform login and provide the URL and the access key. The best and the easiest way, which I always do, is go to vCluster.cloud, set up that account, and make sure you have the platform over there. Generate an access key and then log in so that without an agent, you are able to connect to the platform and enable the pro features to be used for your Kubernetes clusters. Now, vCluster is up and running. Now we need to make sure that we have the right context. So kubectl get pod size A. Since it is only showing one pod means we are inside that particular virtual cluster. All the other steps we have to do inside the virtual cluster. So first step is the issuer. So this is a sample issuer, which is a sample email, private key reference solvers as ingress with the ingress class name NGINX. So kubectl apply -f issuer. The issuer is created. Also, the application, simple NGINX application, a deployment with one replica of NGINX image and exposing that as a service. kubectl apply -f app. The app is created, kubectl get pods. The pod should be running. The next step is the certificate and the ingress. Now, before we actually do that, we need to get the IP address of the ingress NGINX controller. For that, we'll switch back the context, kubectl config, use context, kubectl get -n ingress NGINX. And we can see this is the external IP. Let's copy that and let's edit our ingress to that. So what we are saying in this particular ingress is example ingress with the ingress class name as NGINX, and we want that the host is cert dot the public IP and the domain nip.io. And the same for the host with HTTP, which should route to a service named NGINX on port number 80. And we need to do that for the certificate as well, like for which particular domain we actually want to issue the certificate. And here we are referring let's encrypt that issuer that we created and the secret name. So now we need to switch the context. So I am back in the virtual cluster context. Now we'll apply the ingress and also the certificate. So apply for F certificate. kubectl get issuer. We can see that our issuer was true. kubectl get pods. Pods was true. kubectl get ingress. Ingress came up. kubectl get certificate. Certificate might take a bit time to become true. Right now it's false. Let's wait for some time so that it is true. And the certificate is true. So kubectl get ing. It's pretty simple. We can do a call https. And we can see welcome to NGINX page. We can also visit this because this is a load balancer type of ingress controller. We can visit that on the web page as well. I put the URL and here we go. Our connection is secured. That's how easy it is. So it's pretty simple to use the integration, just 3 lines to add in your vCluster YAML file, and you are able to reuse the Cert-Manager on the host cluster for the applications that are running inside the virtual cluster. How cool is that? Do comment your thoughts in the comments and make sure to subscribe to vCluster YouTube channel so that I can come up and bring all these amazing videos to you. Make sure to check out vCluster if you're not using for 2025 for your multi-tenancy, cost reduction, platform engineering, any type of workload necessities. Thanks so much for watching and see you in the next one.